All right, so we are actually starting Unit 7 today, which is talking about triangle properties. It's going to be awesome, more about triangles. They are super important in geometry. So today we are going to be talking about the triangle inequality theorems, and your homework will be the day one worksheet. It's only going to be the front of that worksheet, though. So let's get started. The four things we want to start off with are a couple reviews. So the first thing is talking about medians. So if AM is a median of this triangle, it means a couple things. It means that M is the midpoint of BC, so this little point is the midpoint of the bottom, and that the two halves are congruent. So BM is congruent to BC here. One important thing you want to know is that this tells you nothing about the angles. Just because M is the midpoint tells you nothing about any angles anywhere in this triangle. Moving over to the next one, we have an angle bisector. That tells you that AP here is a bisector of the angle of the triangle. So angle BAP is congruent to angle CAP, the two angles marked here in yellow. Again, this tells you nothing about side lengths. An angle bisector talks about angles. A median talks about sides. The next one is an altitude. An altitude in a triangle is also called the height. So if AD is an altitude here, we know that they are perpendicular. AD is perpendicular to BC. And we know that the two angles formed are going to be right angles. Now, this shouldn't be confused with a perpendicular bisector, because that also makes a perpendicular here. So PM is perpendicular to AC, but you'll notice that an altitude goes through the other point that's on the triangle, the other vertex here, where this does not. It actually splits this side in half. So AM is congruent to CM. So make sure you know that an altitude goes through the corner of a triangle. A perpendicular bisector does not necessarily go through the corner of a triangle. And now on to the new stuff. So we're talking about the triangle inequality theorems. There are two of them today. So the first one is going to be the exterior angle inequality. And this makes kind of makes sense if you remember what we talked about. This exterior angle is equal to the sum of the two interior angles, right? So A plus C equals D. Well, the theorem says that since that's true, this angle on the outside has to be bigger than either of the two far angles here. So D is greater than C, and D is greater than A. So let's see how that works in practice here. So if we want to look at this diagram, we have angles 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So the first one says the measure of angle 1 and the measure of angle 4. And I want you to fill in this symbol here. And I put greater than, because angle 1 is on the outside, angle 4 is on the inside. So 1 has to be greater than 4. And if you look at the picture, you can kind of tell that from the picture as it is. Number 2 is looking at angle 3 and angle 5. Well, angle 3 is on the inside. Angle 5 is an exterior angle on the outside. So 5 is the bigger one, meaning that the measure of angle 3 is less than the measure of angle 5. So there will be a little practice on that in a little bit. The second theorem for today is the triangle side angle inequalities. And this one is something that you might not have thought about, but it makes a lot of sense once you understand it. So it says that the largest angle is across from the longest side. And the smallest angle is across from the smallest side, is basically what these two statements are saying. So if you have a really big angle, it's across from a really big side. If you have a really small angle, it's across from a really small side. So let's see what that looks like in an example. So if we want to list the angles in order from least to greatest here, we can look at the side lengths. So we have 3, 3.1, and 2.9 as our side lengths. So if we want to go from least to greatest, so the smallest to the biggest, we look and say, okay, 2.9 is our smallest side, so that means that angle B should be our smallest angle. Angle So this side is 3 down here. So since that's the middle one going across there, A is going to be the middle angle. And on this side, 3.1, that is the biggest side. So C is going to be the biggest angle. So when I type these in here, I probably should have flipped them around and put B on the top and C on the bottom, just so you knew that going from least to greatest, that the smallest one, the next, and the biggest one would be down here. So you might want to flip around C and B here, switch their places. The next one over here says list the sides in order from shortest to longest. So again, they're asking about sides, but we can look at the angles since they are given. So we want to say, okay, we have 70, 63, and 47. We want the shortest side first. So 47 is our smallest angle. That is across from AB. So AB is our shortest side. We can then look and say, okay, 70 and 63. Well, 63 is the next smallest, and that is across from BC. So BC is our middle side. And our biggest one up here is 70, which is across from AC. So AC has to be our largest side. So there are a couple more practice problems here, and then you will definitely do some on your own. So the next example says the perimeter of triangle KLM is 27. It gives you KL, LM, and KM, and it wants you to find the measures of all three sides and list the angles in descending order. So there's a couple of parts here, right? We want to know what are the measures of the sides, and we want to list the angles in descending order. So 2 parts. So to start, they're talking about perimeter. So we know that if you add up all the sides, it's going to be 27 because the perimeter is 27. Then we can fill in what they gave us here. So x plus 6 plus x minus 4 plus 2x minus 3 is going to be 27. We can simplify that down by combining like terms to get 4x minus 1 equals 27. And then when you finish solving that, you'll end up with x equals 6.5. So to finish up the first question here, the measure of all three sides, you'd plug that 6.5 back in for KL, for LM, and KM, and you'd end up with 12.5, 2.5, and 10. So that's the first question. The second question is talking about listing the angles in descending order. So for this, it'd be really good to have a picture. So if you draw a picture of triangle KLM, it might not be accurate to scale. So you just need your 3 vertices, and then we're going to put the side lengths on. So we'll put KL, LM, and KM on. And now we can figure out, okay, what's our biggest angle, what's our smallest angle, and we want to go in descending order. Descending order means going from the biggest down to the smallest. So the biggest side here is going to be 12.5. So that is across from angle M. The next biggest side is 10, and that's across from angle L. And the smallest side is 2.5, and that's across from angle K. So going in descending order, we have angle M, angle L, and angle K as the second part of our answer there. And again, if you look at my diagram, it's not really to scale, but this is just more to show you what's across from what, because it's kind of hard to figure that out if you don't have some kind of a diagram here. So for this next problem, I would like you to pause the video and try it on your own. Notice before you do that, that this is talking about angles. So pause this for a second, give it a try, and then we will go through it. All right, so this one is talking about angles. So we know that the angles of a triangle add up to 180. So the 3 angles will add up to 180. So if we plug in what was given in the problem, we'll have that equal to 180. We'll combine some like terms and end up with 9x plus 9 equals 180, and then finish solving for x. So we get x equals 19. Now the question asks us just to identify the biggest side. So we can plug in x and figure out what the 3 angles are. So we'll get 66 for angle M, 47 for angle N, and 67 for angle O. Again, probably a good idea to draw a diagram at this point of triangle MNO. Again, probably not to scale, that's okay. And then we're going to put angle M, angle N, and angle O on our diagram, and we are looking for the biggest side. We know that that is across from the biggest angle. So out of 66, 47, and 67, this is the biggest angle, meaning that MN is going to be the biggest side. I would like you now to go through problems 1, 2, 3, 4 on the next page on your own. We will go over the answers tomorrow in class. And then your homework tonight is going to be, again, the day 1 worksheet, but you're only doing the front of it. Okay? So if you have questions on this, make some jot down some notes in your packet, and you can ask me tomorrow as we're going through things. Other than that, have a fantastic day, and I will see you tomorrow.